tend to have more power in a motion picture, and therefore he failed to see the shift that was coming. Thomas Watson, the famed chairman of IBM, saying, I think there's a world market for maybe 5 computers. Why did he see that? Because he sees big mainframes. I remember when Stephen Jobs started Apple Computer, he said, I envision a day when there would be a computer in every house. And all of us were like, you're out of your mind. And now can you imagine a house without a computer? Okay? Or this one. We don't like their sound, and guitar music is on the way out. Decca Records as they were rejecting the Beatles. Again, it didn't fit with their platform going forward. Business leaders missing large signals right in front of them. Some people see very distant signals before anyone else does. I found this quote from Thomas Edison in 1931. I put my money on sun and solar energy. What a source of power. I hope you don't have to wait until oil or coal run out before we tackle that. Why could he see that before anybody else? What are examples on climate change? I had an example of 5 years ago. I was talking to an executive at a major American automobile manufacturer in Southeast Michigan, that will remain nameless. And he said, Andy, this hybrid thing is a blip. Once people realize they're not getting the money back in gas savings from the drivetrain they're buying, they're going to stop buying it. And I said, you just don't get it. Selling someone a hybrid car is no different than finding some middle-aged guy and convincing him that if he buys a Corvette, he's going to get more chicks. It's about identity. It's about projecting who they are. People are buying Priuses because they're cool, because they're sexy, because they're fun, because they like the video game, because they like the new technology. They buy it for a whole host of reasons that go way beyond the economics. And the auto companies do know this. They do know that people buy cars based on emotion. And he missed it. Why? Because he sees this as some external pressure that he doesn't want to have to deal with. And young people going, you know what? This is right on us. So, to conclude with my last 2 slides, I promise. This one motivates my teaching on these issues. To be truly radical is to make hope possible, not despair convincing. Too much of the environmental message is doom and gloom, that the world is coming to an end kind of stuff. And there's 2 critics of the environmental movement, Schellenberger and Northwest, who were very famous epic called the indefinite environmentalism. And they were trying to make this point. They made it quite nicely by saying, you motivate people with the positive, not the negative. You motivate them to work towards a future that they desire, not one they fear. So Martin Luther King gave a speech called I Have a Dream, not I Have a Nightmare. And that really captures what they're trying to talk about. And the second point I want to leave you with, beyond the idea of a positive message, is that some people can see this and some people can't. And I got this quote, and I really like it. The future is already here. It's just unevenly distributed. Some people can see these signals, some people can't. I'll leave it to you to decide whether you can see those signals, but I hope it excites you to look for them. And that's, I'm sorry for doing that.
motivate the companies on increasing their profit and telling them how it's whole another good elements to put in their companies. But how these companies motivate people on a basic level, and how do they, I don't know, do they either punish or do they reward those people?
Always reward.
For example, if I'm a good salesperson, on the top salesperson, and I don't want to be green and I don't want to recycle my paper. I'm just saying it just as an example. Are they going to fire a top person, salesperson, just because I don't recycle my paper? What are they?
Yeah. I'd like to think differently about two aspects of what you said. First of all, the developing world is a great opportunity in this area. There's a whole field called base of the pyramid, trying to recognize that there are opportunities in the developing world because it's such a large population. There's some real genuine needs, and companies need to think differently about how they enter that market and how they think about their profit calculations. And so there's some exciting opportunities in that area of thinking about bringing technologies to that part of the world. Beyond that, what you want to do, I think about the idea of motivating your consumers. Let's put it in that domain. I mean, you know, in your personal area, you know, I actually, if I have a can and there's no place to recycle it, I really don't feel any guilt about throwing it away. I mean, this is an institutional problem, and you got to get people to want to do it. It has to be easy. You know, green buildings have to be just as easy as a regular building. I had a friend who put solar cells on his roof, and the transfer switch never worked. So every time I shifted from the generator to the solar cells, he had to go outside and pull this huge lever. I was like, I'm sorry, my wife isn't going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Take them out. So you got to make it as easy as possible. But beyond that, like with consumers, you want to make it attractive. You want to make it desirable. You know, necessity is the mother of invention. Toyota with the Prius used to have an ad where they showed a green skid mark taken out because an electric motor has more torque. And you ask more, do you want a rocket? Get a hybrid, an electric. One of the biggest drivers of innovation, seeing attractiveness, because their cost calculations are different than the U.S. military. Right now, the U.S. military pays about $1 a gallon for its fuel, but to deliver it to its remote battlefield installations, given the protection and the transport, it's about $200 a gallon. So there's a huge opportunity right there for solar installations in these remote locations. The U.S. military likes electrics. They don't have the heat trail that an internal combustion engine has. They don't make the sound, and they have more torque for going through fields. You have to look for the reason why someone would want to do this, and don't scare them by saying, you know, if you don't do this, I'm going to punish you. That is a terrible way to motivate people. So if you were living under threat that you're going to get fired if you don't recycle your paper, I'd really question your management's techniques and try and find ways to make it in people's interests to do this. And, you know, recycled paper can lower your disposal costs. Would you be more inclined to do it if they showed you the cost savings by recycling paper rather than throwing it into a landfill? These kinds of things. You know, treat you like an intelligent adult and tell you the reasons why we're doing this, give you the business case, and I think you'll be more inclined to do it than if I don't do this, my boss is going to fire me.
Let's say we have room for 2 more questions, and then we need to move on to the breakout sections. And if you have other questions during the